Hi, my name is Jennifer Salahub. I lead the Conflict Affected and Fragile States group at the North South Institute, and I'm here with Paddy Ashdown, who's just given a very engaging talk on why the world will never be the same again and what we should do about it. Paddy, you focused on sort of three themes in your discussion this afternoon on horizontal and vertical power shifts and on increasing interconnectedness in the world. I wanted to ask you about those questions from a development angle. So, could you tell me how you see those changes that you outlined impacting global development, and what major changes we will have to make in development as we move forward?
I think that if we are to reduce the turbulence in a very turbulent age, we're going to have to look at the sources of conflict. And one of them is poverty, hopelessness, deprivation, starvation of resources, or at least resource competition. And I think unless you look at those in a global scale, you're not going to see where the sources of this. So that's part of the vertical power shift, that you have to start looking at the global space and you have to start thinking about taking globalized action. And the second thing is that increasingly, as you see power and wealth, of course, shift from the Western nations to the East, we have to engage them in the process of multilateral action to be able to tackle the issue of poverty, deprivation, development. And I personally think that many of them are ready to do so. The one thing we don't want to do is to approach them on the basis, okay, we haven't got the money, you can be a donor to the process. We've got to have the courage to make them genuine partners in the process. I know, for instance, that the Chinese are really interested in engaging multilaterally in the development issue because they want a peaceful world as well, because that's what you do if you're a trading nation. So I think, as with almost everything else, these two things have a real role to play, both expanding the coalitions beyond the Western space and understanding the actions that have to take at the global level. And then the last point about interdependence is the fact that we need to recognize that we have an enlightened self-interest, we in the Western countries, who want to live in a peaceful world, in making sure that the poverty that will drive wars in a distant place but can be visited in our own cities, as we saw in 9/11, are actions taken to prevent that happening.
Thanks for that. So given those comments, what recommendations would you make for how international development think tanks like the North South Institute, what actions can we do to contribute?
Above all, think. That's what you have to do. You know, the truth is that we actually don't know the answers to many of these terrifying conundrums that now confront us. And this should be a sort of, using a phrase of Mao Zedong's, letting 1,000 flowers bloom. We need people to be thinking. And the truth of it is that if you're going on doing what you're doing, you're going to end up continuing to get what you've got. And we need people to think about how it is we can achieve some of this. One of the kind of things that I think the North South Institute can do and does do is to look at particular issues, let's say the issue of mining and extractive industries, and to create a framework of solutions about how you can get through that particular thicket. And if you look at what's in front of us now as a whole mass of thickets in a jungle, then those who can trace interesting paths, workable paths through that, have a really important role to play. One of my worries is that you have politicians, and maybe even here in Canada, but I don't want to be critical of the country which I'm in, who really shut out original thought because they think they have the answers. And if there's a truth about politicians, is they don't. So they do need people to give them ideas, to find the solutions to the problems. And I think think tanks play a really important part in that. I heard the expression used, we don't want think tanks, we want doing tanks. Yeah, but unless you know how to do, and you can only do that by thinking about how you do it and coming up with solutions to the problem, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Thanks very much, Paddy.
Great pleasure.